followed by Kevin Karad.
Thank you. This is a plan that takes the rights of the people, including real property rights, and those of the towns, the cities, and the counties, and puts these rights in a committee under the control of the governor. A top-down plan. This plan is a UN Agenda 21 plan. Under UN Agenda 21, the United States is blamed for using more than its fair share of world resources and calls for the redistribution of the wealth of the United States. A goal of UN Agenda 21 is the concentration of the people of the United States onto 15% of the land in high-density housing near railroads.
Thank you.
Other goals are to eliminate private property rights, confiscate private farms, ban individual ownership of cars. Under this loosely and generally worded New Jersey plan, all of these goals of UN Agenda, including high-density housing, can be accomplished. Instead of liberating people from the tenements, this plan enslaves more people. You may say this can't happen, but look around and watch as the state sinks our money and state resources into such developments, and slowly through economic pressures, high gas prices, high property taxes, and other state means of control and nudging, you or your children or grandchildren will end up in the tenements. Look at the towns where the governor is proposing new schools, the very same places this plan wants us concentrated in. HUD and state funding is already being poured into these areas. The process has started. This is a redistribution of wealth plan in accordance with UN Agenda 21. I could comment on the unelected committee running this plan for the governor, which will include UN Agenda 21 disciples, or the limited number of public hearings, or the rush to put this plan into action by April, or the failure to provide for a vote or approval by the people or the legislature, or any myriad of comments on the goals of the plan. But there is only one comment necessary: no to the plan in total. The governor has stated that in regard to the definition of marriage, let the people decide. I say, Governor, let the people decide how they want their land. Decide how they want their land used and their state developed, and where and how we live. After all, we are paying the bill, not your committee. Families and individuals have worked their whole lives for the American dream, a single-family house on a parcel of land. This dream is being demonized as sprawl, as if the American dream is a cancer. Yep. This plan is more insidious than Obamacare. And the most insidious provision is the governor's and the committee's unilateral taking of the control of our property and the way we live. I say no to the plan. Changes to the plan are not enough. The power lies in the governor's office and not in the hands of the people. Changes in the plan will not affect that. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Hi, my name is Kevin Caron, and I am a Somerset County resident, and I have concerns with the New Jersey Development Plan. I've read the entire plan, and I've read the Somerset County Vision Plan. The outcomes seem to be already determined, and public input really here seems to be for show. State plan appears to impede development outside of the urban areas and to shift resources from suburban areas. The design goals are social and environmental. There's no real economic benefit for a majority of New Jersey citizens here. It is a top-down control plan that dictates land use and development. The draft plan also seems to give the state authority to accumulate land for preservation and develop population centers like Camden and Newark and Trenton and other centers. It requires funding from the state, which I don't support. Montgomery Township, where I live, has 1/3 of the property already preserved, and the surrounding townships also have a similar amount of town property preserved already. So I mean, how much property we need to keep preserving, and doing that preserving will limit your ability to do anything else. The federal government is giving money to the states with strings attached. The state money that will be involved here will also have strings attached. It will take away the local authority to develop of the development process and give it to the state. An example is like the solar panels you see on all these telephone poles. No township has the right to say, no, we don't want those stupid looking telephone solar panels in front of my house. There's really no traffic congestion relief in the plan. The plan will intertwine local, state, and federal branches to control water use, energy use, private property, food production, population growth, owning and using our own cars, temperature controls in your home. Whether they intended to or not, it's really, eerily similar to the principles of Agenda 21. The state of New Jersey should have more public hearings in each of the counties if they really want to be fair about this. So I want to remain in my suburban home, and I want to drive my car as I need and avoid the city as much as possible. I don't want to be required to take the bus to work. I don't want to live in a row home. I don't want my children walking to school in these dangerous times. I don't want my private property rights taken away. I don't want to live at uncomfortable temperatures designated by bureaucrats. Most people in the state have no idea about this plan, and I've talked to many people at my company, and I asked them if you know anything about the New Jersey development plan. New Jersey needs jobs, and that's what we really need, and everything else here will work its way through and work its way out. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Richard Myers. Richard. Up next is John Clemmer.
Hello, I'm Richard Miner. I live on Lake Mohawk in Sparta, New Jersey, Sussex County. My family moved to New Jersey in 1951. I was 8 years old. Back then there was no income tax, there was no state tax, and the state was the most prosperous state in the Union. It was the most business-friendly state in the Union. More corporations were formed in New Jersey than any other state in the Union, but all that started to change. It started to change in the 1960s, particularly 1967. It was partly the legislature, it was partly the left wing of the New Jersey Supreme Court. They brought us Mount Laurel 1, Mount Laurel 2, they brought us COA. COA is designed to shift money from the small towns to the city, and the Abbott districts are even worse, where you have a yuppie town like Hoboken is declared an Abbott district. That is really ridiculous. That's the town that Corzine lives in. Corzine's condo pays zero taxes because it was given a tax subsidy. That's what these Mount Laurel district and the redistribution is all about. This plan is more of the same. This plan is designed to move us to targeted high-density urban areas near railroad tracks and live in tight, on top of each other, housing. This is to defund rural areas. This is to defund the suburbs and force people into the city. This is Agenda 21. Don't let these people say they don't know anything about Agenda 21. And Frank Jerry, your next assignment is to read Agenda 21 and to see the connection between this plan and Agenda 21. It is all awards from the state and other organizations for the quality of our lake. And it's an example of when the people own their own lake, because Lake Mohawk is private, they take the best care of it.
Exactly.
They take the best care of their home. It's shown that people who own their home take better care of it than renters do. The Indians that are living on reservations are starving, but the tribes that were not granted tribal status are doing very well because they don't have the government forcing them into tribal lands. This is not top down, but when you start talking about targeted jobs, targeted zones, that sounds top down, that doesn't sound bottom up. So what they're saying and what the plan is all about are two different things. The number one objective of this plan is allegedly economic growth, but there are no tax cuts. There are no regulation cuts. The best thing you could do for improving economic growth in New Jersey would be have right to work, get rid of the forced unionization. This plan does not do any of that, but it says that's its number one objective. Forcing people into high-density homes is not economic development. We've heard a lot of buzzwords, like scorecard. We've heard about a pot of money. Now, where does that pot of money come from? The state of New Jersey has $50 billion in debt. Where are they going to get that pot of money? They don't have that money. Well, they might get it from us, so they can tax us. They might borrow it, maybe they can borrow it from China. They might get it from the federal government. The federal government is in debt too. $15 trillion, where are they going to get it from? Maybe China or Japan. So where are they getting this pot of money? And they're going to use that pot of money to bribe towns to go along with this plan. And this plan did originate, starting in Rio, as Agenda 21. As a UN running the United States of America and taking away our constitutional rights. One of our constitutional rights is to protect our personal property right. There's a 5th Amendment, a 14th Amendment about not taking our property without due process of law. This plan takes away our property right without due process of law. Thank you.
After John is Nancy Burwell.
This is John Clemmer from Belvedere. I'm town councilman there. I can't outdo that. That was great. Thank you. The one good thing I can say about this plan is it doesn't have enough regulation to suit Mr. Titel. That's the best thing about it. The plan clearly is established by a top-down bureaucrat system or process. The plan provides a template for redistribution of wealth from rural suburban areas to cities and towns. And really, isn't this what Governor Christie is complaining about, our school districts, that we have redistribution of wealth to the school districts in the cities? Same thing here. So what are we doing? Same thing all over again? This is ridiculous. And we haven't learned anything in government? This also establishes private and public partnerships. And that's the sure way of wasting our taxpayer money. And first of all, they do all these stupid projects that we don't approve. So how well is that going? This also does not have a method to protect individual property rights. And without that, it's a dead project as far as I'm concerned. Our problem is not that we don't have enough government. Our problem is that we have too much government.
And then C. Dwyer is up after Nancy.
Nancy Burwell from Morris Township. Well, I'm just going to say a few things. They've already kind of been said already, but it was stated that the goal for this plan is economic growth. But I don't really see how this plan can give us economic growth. States such as Texas, which have unemployment rates below the national average, and they have a good business climate, have used proven strategies to create jobs and foster economic growth, such as lower taxes, less regulation, limited government, less government spending, and right-to-work laws. These are proven strategies. I don't see these strategies in this plan. And I would like to know, has any state achieved economic growth simply by having a plan similar to this New Jersey state plan? I doubt it. Second point is, this plan channels my tax money to state-selected urbanized areas at the expense of suburban, small-town, and rural areas. And so I have to wonder what happens to the needs in areas that are not selected by the state. And that's it.
Thank you. Dwyer, Morristown? Okay. Helen Heinrich. Helen here? Okay. And then after Helen is Jeffrey Grant.
I'm Helen Heinrich, and I'm here representing the over 10,000 farm families in New Jersey. We've been working on the various versions of the state plan since 1985 because the farmers own and work most of the undeveloped land in New Jersey, and land use became awfully important when the first state plan was developed. We've experienced two serious economic setbacks, which you all know about, as a result of regional planning tools, which made farmers a bit wary of concepts like this, the Pinelands and now the Highlands. In the Highlands, we understand values have dropped something like 75% just since the lines were drawn. So land use planning is critical to farm families. And we think that this plan has a lot of good points in it. We welcome various aspects. We see it as a plan to be a plan, and that we expect that the details will be coming along later, and they're just as important to the farmland owners as to everybody else in this room. One thing we like, that finally economic development and business is part of good planning. It hasn't been for 25 years, and farms are businesses as well as land holding, and it's time that the state and the municipalities looked at helping the farmers hold on to their land economically because they're making a living, not just because it's preserved or they have to sell it to pay their bills. It's their main asset, as you all know, and their retirement plan and the main asset fundamental to the economy of their business. Another thing we like about the plan is there is a recognition that agriculture is an emerging possible economic sector that can contribute a lot to the state and to municipalities. And we like the language where it says land use regulating agencies should consider farming an asset and not a nuisance. That's very welcome, since right to farm is still the #1 issue that farmers tell us they have to deal with. We like the wording about reconsidering regulations that restrict the growth of farming, fishing, and green energy production. But we expect some more details on that. We like the funding for farmland preservation and a dedicated funding source that is secure, and that farmer and landowners don't have to worry every 4 years whether there's going to be any money to help them realize some of the equity in their land. Issues, though, in the first state plan, the farm community was very concerned about equity all over the state, losing the land values, and so insisted that policy number 1 be added to the plan. I don't know if those of you in the room are familiar with that, but please look it up. The language that we like was the state plan should neither be used in a manner that places an unequitable burden on any one class of citizens, nor should it be used as justification for public actions that have the effect of diminishing equity of residents. Maybe what you could do is to enclose that as an appendix, like some of the other things you suggested you're going to add to it, to expand on the garden state value number 6, which doesn't really have the same scope as policy number 1. We're concerned, unlike it sounds like a lot of people in the room, about the land use decisions being more on the shoulders of the municipalities, because research shows that municipalities are the level of government that causes the most right farm problems for farmers. And finally, I think the idea of clusters is long overdue. Agriculture needs cluster thinking, just like other industries. In the last version of the plan, they talked about an agricultural node, and we'd really like to see some development of that. So we like the balance, and we are looking for the details to flesh out this plan. Thank you.